So as bikers, it's quite natural, we're always looking for that extra bit of power. But with all that extra power comes extra weight and of course, extra cost. But is the Triumph Street Triple 765 the perfect balance? Now, I'll be the first to admit, over the last 20 or so years, I've lusted and drooled over the latest and greatest super bikes. Bikes have been getting more and more powerful. Those bikes have gone from, around about 100 horsepower up to 200 horsepower plus. And because of all that power, they're now loaded with all the latest electronics to try and control everything, and that makes them even more ridiculously expensive. Now, most normal working people have found it harder and harder to buy these bikes. And it's only really with the emergence of PCP finance that people have been able to buy them. But let's be honest here, you're just renting the bike. However, the market's been changing and there's now a raft of new bikes coming through that are lower cost, lower capacity. However, like me, if you're used to riding litre plus bikes, you're going to struggle with some of these bikes. They're not really going to feed your need for speed. But there are a few, just a few, that are going to do that. Is the Triumph 765 one of them? So back in the day, the perfect blend of weight and power was achieved by bikes like the Suzuki GSX-R 750 and Ducati's 748. They had plenty of power, but they actually handled much better than their bigger siblings. Now, when Triumph first introduced the Street Triple in 2007 as a 675cc, it was a naked version of the popular Daytona 675 and generally didn't attract bigger bike riders. But times have changed and the UK and the rest of the world, up to a point, has fallen out of love with sports bikes. Naked bikes and adventure bikes have become the new kings. Now, jump forward 17 years to 2024, and those bikes have simply become too big, too powerful, and too expensive for most people. And especially after COVID and the current economic situation. Now, while all this has been going on, Triumph has quietly been selling thousands and thousands of these bikes. Now, they've been continually updating the bike, but in 2018, it got a capacity hike to 765cc. And it finally gave them the extra power and the extra torque they were looking for. And then in 2019, Triumph became the engine supplier to the Moto2 race series. And they've been continually developing it until 2023 when they released this latest edition. So, enough talking, let's go and take this thing for a spin.
So today I'm riding the RS version of the bike, but it's also available as the lower cost R version too. They share the same 765cc triple cylinder engine, but the RS is tuned to make 130 brake horsepower compared to the 120 in the R version. I believe most of the extra power is found at the top end of the rev range, so on the road you really shouldn't notice that much difference between the two. The last time I rode one of these bikes, it was a 675cc. I can immediately feel the difference. The fueling on the engine is excellent. It's very smooth and linear. There are no surprises anywhere in the rev range. When you open it up, it spins up super quick and starts to eat its way through the gears. The gear ratios have been shortened too, improving acceleration, and you can really feel it. The latest quick shifter is a big improvement over the older versions and fires the bike forward, throwing gears at it as quick as you can hook your foot under the gear lever. It works great on downshifts as well. With all that said, the bike will just as easily cruise through town at 30 miles per hour in just about any gear you want. No juddering, no complaints. The engine makes 80 newton meters of torque or 59 foot-pounds. That's quite respectable for this sort of an engine. But this is an engine that loves to be revved, and it tops out at about 12,000 RPM on the rev counter. But this style of bike, the 765, fits me rather well. I'm about 5'10" tall, and it fits me like a glove, to be honest. Riding position is slightly leant forwards onto the flat style bars, but there's no real weight on my wrists. My legs are in a fairly typical sports position, but luckily I don't find that too uncomfortable either. One of the benefits of the riding position is that although this is a naked bike, because you lean into the bike, the wind resistance and buffeting wasn't too bad at all. And there is a small fly screen available should you feel the need. The seat felt very comfortable. I've no complaints about it at all. The suspension is set up quite stiff from the factory, but it was compliant as well. I've now softened it off a bit for the road, and it works really well. I'm informed that the R suspension is better suited to road riding, whereas the RS has the more track-focused Öhlins shock at the rear. And that leads us on to the handling. Now, compared to the Aprilia Tuono that I rode recently, this thing feels as light as a feather. You only have to look at a bend and it's there, hunting and chasing the apex. The fact that the bike's only 188 kilos and has great geometry really helps. I can honestly say this is one of the best handling bikes I've ever ridden. As I've already mentioned, the RS comes with a fully adjustable Öhlins rear shock and fully adjustable Showa big piston forks at the front. And combined with the Brembo Stylema calipers, which are amazing, and the Pirelli Diablo Supercorsa 3 tyres, this is a bike I felt totally confident on straight away. It's one of those bikes that you get on and within 5 minutes you feel like you've been riding it for years. Now, although this bike costs about half as much as a modern litre bike, it's still got all the technology. It's got multiple engine modes. Now the engine modes in turn link into the 6-axis IMU that controls cornering ABS, your traction control, your front wheel lift, that's wheelie control to you and me. It's got a 5-inch TFT dash, provides all the information you could dream of, although I must admit it's not the easiest to read, but more about that later. This bike had cruise control and it worked brilliantly, but the bike doesn't come with it as standard. It's normally an additional £335 plus the installation. The bike is My Triumph connectivity system ready, but again you'll have to pay an additional £245 for the module needed to make that work. Anyway, we've been out here quite a while, let's head back.
I love the latest incarnation of this bike, especially in this cosmic yellow. And I don't even like yellow. It looks really aggressive, the build quality is great, and for a naked bike, it's really neat and tidy. No loose cables or wires dangling anywhere, no wayward hoses. Everything seems really well thought out and in its place. Yeah, I really like the style and design of this bike, but of course, it won't be for everyone. Okay, so let's talk about desirability. For a bike in this price category, this bike looks and rides fantastic. While I've been riding around filming, I've noticed so many people giving me admiring glances as I'm riding by. People are stopping me to talk about the bike, asking about the bike, telling me how beautiful the paint is, how lovely the colour is. So for me, yeah, especially in this price bracket, this is a very desirable bike. I've checked out the used market as well, and these things really hold their price. Even the older 675 models. Okay, but what about the cost? Well, in 2024, the standard R version of this bike retails at $9,795, and this RS version retails at $11,495. So with a £2,000 deposit, you can get the standard R version for just £95 a month. And with the same deposit on the RS, it's only going to cost you £129 a month. Really good value. So the RS version costs an extra £1,700. So what do you get for that extra money? So to start with, you get the Öhlins piggyback rear shock. Now the shock on the standard R is going to be fine for most people. However, with the Öhlins shock, it's just a little bit more plush. You've got some extra adjustability. And for those of you that like doing the odd track day, it's an absolute must. You also get a full TFT colour dash. You get the extra 10 horsepower from the engine. Although most of that's at the top end, so again, it's quite track focused. You get the Brembo Stylema brake calipers and the adjustable lever. You get the bar end mirrors, which in my opinion, look and work a lot better. The rear of the bike's been set up 10mm higher. That tips the bike onto its nose a little bit more, just gives you better handling. Again, great for those track days. As standard, the bike comes with Pirelli Diablo Super Corsa tyres. Again, they're super sticky, great for people looking at track days. Not quite so good in the wet and the cold. The bike comes as standard with the seat cowl. It also comes with the passenger seat, so you can switch to suit whichever type of riding you're doing. And finally, the bike comes with an additional riding mode, and that's track mode. And again, if you never touch a track, you're not going to need this. So is that worth all the extra money? Well, that really depends on the type of riding you do. If you're only ever going to ride the bike on the road, and if you're not a particularly aggressive rider, then you know what, you're probably not going to notice the difference. However, like me, if you do a few track days and if you're quite an advanced rider, you really do feel the difference with all these added extras. So whichever version you decide to go for, I think you're definitely getting value for money with both these bikes. It's just unfortunate I've not been able to ride the standard R version. A bit like Ducati, Triumph are now only really offering their higher spec bikes for demo rides. So you never really get to try the basic one. Now, I know a lot of the journalists and YouTubers that were on the launch of this bike back in 2023 all had really good things to say about the standard bike. It's just unfortunate that you're going to have to take their word for it. But I'll be honest with you, being a Triumph, I'm sure it's going to be every bit as good as they say it is. So at the start of the video, I asked, is this bike the perfect balance? Well, in this incarnation, I really think it is. It's low in weight, it's got plenty of power, and it handles incredibly. I honestly can't think of a better bike for general road riding. And I don't think I could have gone any faster or ridden any better on a bigger capacity bike. In fact, I'll go as far to say I think I'll probably be faster on this one, because the bike just gives me so much confidence. I've also come to realise that it's actually a lot more fun wringing the neck of this thing than barely touching the throttle of some 200 horsepower monster. Now, I don't think there's many bikes out there that would qualify to fit in this bracket of perfect balance. I know the new Yamaha MT-09 has just come out, and again, that's a triple engine, slightly bigger capacity, going to be a little bit more torquey, but that's potentially one that could. And I'm going to be exploring bikes in this vein for the next few weeks, and we'll see what we come up with. Would I buy this bike? Absolutely, I would buy this bike. In fact, it's already on my wish list. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. As per usual, please give us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Sweet Rides.
Something bang bang, something bang 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 bang, something bang bang.